Can I ask you for silence, and then I haven't got any notes. But I'd like some silence before I begin, and we'll see what comes out of that silence. I wish, though, I could sit real close to everybody. So sometimes I just like to, touching someone when I'm talking to them. When we touch, it's so important. I can't do that, you know. And have some moment of silence. See what comes out of it. I'd like to ask all of you to put your guru, your teacher or teachers aside for now. Put all the ways they articulate things. Can you put that aside and not try to fit what I might say into how you think it fits with what your teacher says? Can we put that aside so we can really listen? And also, you'll find me pointing to a paradox at some point, which the mind can't grasp. So put that aside too. Put that grasping aside. There's nothing here I'm pointing to that the mind can grasp. So as I use words here, they're limited, and they're going to fall short. And sometimes when I might be pointing to something that's been given up here, you might find yourself being a little disturbed. It doesn't fit in. Look to see if there's an attachment there. If anything I say is like, has a response from you, it's like, look at where that's coming from. Is there an attachment there? It doesn't fit into what you've heard, or even maybe what you experienced. So I had what most people would call an awakening. I was around 30 years old. I'm in my 80s now, so that's good 50 years. 50 years of exploration. And I'll go through that whole thing, but as I explored, not I explored, but as there was an exploration into all the assumptions, we tend to attach ourselves to various perspectives, various ways of seeing and understanding things. But if you keep exploring, which I hope to talk about, you'll see that much of that can fall away and the lotus keeps opening. And then you realize your whole life is this exploration. It doesn't end. It doesn't come to no finality. There's no place to hang your hat. There's nothing to cling to. You're in a free fall. And there's no ground. Nothing to hold you. Nothing permanent to hang your hat on. And there's an understanding that that's life. Life is always changing. Changing so fast that nothing ever becomes something. As soon as you go to grasp what you think it is, it changes. So nothing is ever born, therefore nothing dies. And there's an understanding that life is this spontaneous change and exploring. So I'm going to go back now. That's just kind of an overview. I was very fortunate at 3 years old to have this mom who grew up on a self-subsistent farm. And she was very intimate with nature. She knew all the wild edibles, and she had this incredible love for nature. And she infected my brother and I. She would take us in the woods as soon as we could walk, having us smell all the different smells of all the different plants, which ones were edible and which ones weren't. And she showed us an incredible sensitivity and love she had for other beings. So that love of nature was the passion for my exploration into nature. And that brought me to a real intimacy with nature, and I want to kind of talk about that. So, when you track an animal, you don't even need to think. It's not about thinking, it's about observation. When I was observing nature, it was about observation. I could look at a twig and know what animal bit it off by how it was bitten off. There was this, or pick up an acorn that was opened by an animal and know which animal opened it. There was an intimacy there that I could look at the forest and the plants would speak in the sense that what was growing and what wasn't growing had a very intimate relationship with how many deer were around. And I could estimate pretty accurately by how the forest was growing, how many deer there were in the forest. I also had a job working for a state biologist. It was my job to, in the winter, I had to find a fresh track of a deer, starting off early in the morning, find a fresh track of a deer. And there was about 40 deer per square mile in this area, so there were a lot of deer in this forest. And I had to stay on the same track all day long. And I had a notebook, and I had to write down everything this deer ate. I'd done that for a couple of years. I'm just trying to demonstrate what an indigenous person learns, not from reading books, but living and observing and breathing that ecosystem. That indigenous person learns that that deer is the forest walking, is the forest eating itself. When that deer dies, and I also worked for the biologist, when the deer was killed or died on the reservoir, we could see the carcass out there in the winter. We would have to get to that deer in 24 hours, less than 24 hours, because he wanted to get a femur to check the deer's health. We had to get out there before the coyotes, the eagles, the ravens, all the predators, even chickadees. That forest, that deer was going back into that forest. The deer was the forest walking, and the deer was all the animals that came to feed on it. So what you're realizing without reading, but just through observation and living that, there's an incredible understanding there that is visceral of how everything is related. Nothing on this planet, you realize, can be outside it. There's no way. Everything is being everything all at once. Now, that is not something you're reading about in a book. It's not a theory. It's a lived experience. Just through a passion and a love and an exploration. And that's what I'm inviting you to do. And indigenous people had an incredible intimacy with nature. All their relations. They had a great deal of respect for it, in most cases. But they were still warring with each other. They still had identification. Now that love and that passion and intimacy that creates the passion to explore, can we turn that inwardly to the wilderness within, to the landscape within? Not because we think we should do that because there's some ulterior motive, because we're trying to escape from who we think we are, but because there's a real interest and a love to explore what's happening inwardly, to go inward and observe the movement of thought, and to track that animal within with the same passion and love you tracked an animal in the forest, just to learn about it, how it lives its life, what it eats, how it hunts, how it escapes predation. What about this inner animal? Now that's an interesting animal. And if there's a fascination with that, not a wanting to get rid of it, but if there's a fascination with that and you just want to hold it, explore it, have some intimacy with it. What is this? You know, when you fall in love, you don't choose who to fall in love with. It's not something you do because you think you should fall in love with this person. This is not something you do because you think you should. But do you have the passion? Is there a passion to explore? And if there is, you might find something like this. So maybe thousands of years ago, a thought came into someone's mind. And the thought was, and these thoughts are all coming up randomly, spontaneously. And one of those spontaneous thoughts was, those are my thoughts. Whoa. I'm thinking those thoughts. I'm thinking those thoughts is a thought. Is that true? It certainly became what we think is true. Think is true. So what you might find is that thought created this idea of something there that is intelligent and has control over the thought process. It also attaches itself to, it is also aware. It is also what's observing and what's meditating and what's paying attention. Those are my feelings. It also has a body, my body. So let's go back a little bit when a child is born, and that child there's no thought process there. But let's say there's this creative intelligence there. And that creative intelligence is moving as that young person. And it starts to center itself in the organism. And it finds boundaries, that the organism has boundaries. It's not the crib. It is incredibly aware and alive, and there is an understanding that without reflecting on it, it knows aliveness, it knows being without reflecting on it. Then thought comes in. Oh, I'm alive. Now it's reflecting on the fact. I'm alive. I'm aware. I'm this body. And there's a separation there. And there's a new center appearing. First, there was this organic center in the organism. That child was the earth walking. It didn't need to know that. Now there's a new center forming, the thinker of the thought. And that identifies eventually with various authoritarian principles, nationalism, religion. Gets very attached, finds security in those authoritarian principles. The authoritarian principles find themselves in conflict. And we find ourselves at war and in the mess we are today. But if you explore that whole self with all its identifications, it's amazing what can happen. And I'm saying you, and that's not the proper way to say it. But if there is an exploration of that whole system, if there's a love to understand, if there is a falling in love, this might happen. So when I was a yogi, and I had 2 schools of yoga, and I had an ashram in Bellingham, Massachusetts. And I thought, I'm awake, I'm this awake guy, and I understand there's no self and all that stuff. I was out back in the beautiful pine forest, back at the ashram, just walking, paying attention, You're supposed to pay attention. You're supposed to watch yourself. That's what you're supposed to do. and I was doing it. And I was good at it. Every step, every thought, every breath. I was very in tune with my whole body. Meditated all the time. Made a headstand for 20 minutes, then did the rest of the yoga routine for 2 hours. Something happened that day. As I thought I was exploring, and I was watching my thoughts, there was this light or seeing that came in, unannounced, and it revealed that who I thought I was, the thinker of the thoughts, the one who was having feelings, the one who was observing, the one who was paying attention to his thoughts. There was a seeing that was creating a division, that this thinker was made up by thought. It was an assumption made up by thought. Thought was trying to watch thought. The assumption that thought created as the thinker was a thought trying to observe a thought. It could not see that, but there was a seeing that who I thought I was blind. I wasn't seeing my blindness. Something else seemed to be seeing it. That seeing was a creative intelligence that revealed that thought had created a false sense of a center and a being that really didn't exist. It was all based on the belief system and identification. That seeing was its own action. That seeing put that whole system aside. It revealed its limitations. And often that's what we're avoiding, is seeing our limitations. Seeing that we are blind and helpless, basically. We're creating our own problems and conflict as that center. Now, that can develop in various ways depending on the culture, depending on... And I think this is very important, and this is where I may step on some toes. So please put all that aside. So if you grow up in a Vedantic culture or a non-dual circles where people are pointing to a small s self and a capital S self, then this is I think, and this is what happened to me. So eventually, there seems to be this no doubt that, oh, that seeing that came in, that's my true self. That's the capital S self. That's who I really am. That's my essence. I'm not the movie. I'm the screen. I'm not touched by the movie. I can transcend suffering. And there is a capability there to transcend suffering and to kind of push it aside. Some people might call that spiritual bypassing. Is there an identification there now? Is that what we're identifying with now? Is there a willingness to explore that? That's something permanent now we found, like a permanent soul that never dies. And we all seek permanence in the face of change, in the face of death. And there can be an attachment to that. Or you could have a spiritual experience of samadhi, and that digs you in deeper to putting your hat, hanging your hat on that essence. Is there an attachment there? I'm not the thoughts. I'm not the body. I'm not the feelings. Is there an escapism there? Are we escaping from our humanity, from really being home? I had to explore it. Be careful. As I explored that, there was an understanding. You know how it seems that thoughts are appearing in awareness. You meditate, I'm sure you all all can relate to that. But we kind of separate the awareness and the thought with that identification. Then there's the possibility of realizing that thoughts are appearing as awareness, not in it. The observer is the observed. The seeing is what is being seen. The subject is the object. So now there's no separation. That thought now is as real as awareness. Awareness is lighting up the thought, being the thought. It's not separate from it, like the thought is coming and going in it. It is coming and going as awareness. And so is everything else. I'm going to go into this a little further. Keeping what I just said in mind. The observer is the observed. What's happened in there? Now I'm going to point to a paradox. The forest, or this room, I'm going to suggest for your exploration, doesn't exist as it exists to you until you walk into it. You are this. You are that. This is what the indigenous person understands in that forest ecosystem. That person is not separate from that ecosystem. If you walk into the forest, you see the forest according to all your senses. If a bat flies into the forest, it's not the same experience. The forest is what it is because you are who you are. And for the bat, it is what it is because the bat is what it is. So you cannot separate the observer from the observed. You could be sitting down. Well, look at those caterpillars outside. How do you think they experience that staircase and the building? That's a totally different reality to them. So what is this room? And all of us here. Can you separate yourself from this? So I would call this room all potential. And that all potential changes with whatever is observing it. And they co-arise. One doesn't come before the other. It's an intermingling. They really can't separate it out. Just like when you look at a rainbow, the sun has to be at a certain level in the sky, and your back has to be facing the sun. And there has to be some moisture on the far side of a field, say. And you will see a rainbow. But if somebody is 90 degrees or looking in the other direction, there will be no rainbow. So the rainbow is a relationship. It's not a thing that exists by itself. It's a relationship. You are not a thing that exists by itself. You are a relationship. And there is no away. I'll go into that. I'm just going to draw a picture, which is for your exploration. So, picture this field of energy, waves or vibrations, which extends in all directions forever. We don't know what that is, but it's not static. Voyager 1, when it went outside our solar system in what's supposed to be empty space, they found it was anything but static. Now, anything that appears or comes into being in that all potential is being that all potential. The thought that comes up into awareness is being the awareness. It is being, the all potential is you being. There's nothing outside it. How can there be something away from everything? How can you not be everything being everything? So come home. Come home to this organism, as Thich Nhat Hanh would say. Come back. And sometimes I think he's calling people who reside in that capital S self. Come back home. Come back home to this body. You are the earth walking. You are related with everything. Even your sense of separateness centered here in the body. We all have separate bodies. We all have different personalities. Again, I'm going to point to the paradox. In order to feel separate, I have to be separate from something. If you hold that sense of separateness, fall in love with it, explore it, you'll find out that in order to have that sense of separateness, even the psychological one, you would have to invent the whole universe first. That sense of separateness can't appear in a vacuum. It is relationship. It is in relationship. The sense of separateness is whole. The whole universe is showing up as that sense of separateness. If that is really understood, there's no problem. You don't have to get rid of it. It's already whole. Pushing that away is just causing conflict. So there's a tendency to, and this is a tough one, to say it's an illusion. But that illusion is appearing as the whole. It is just as real as the whole. We tend to make something real and something not real. Everything is whole. There's nothing outside it. You can't get outside it. The illusion of being outside it is it. How can you get outside? You're already home. Even as you try to get outside, that is whole. It can't exist outside. Where are you going? Where is there to go but be home? So through the years, as I explored, different things opened up, which I'm trying to share with you. And it, again, as I went through that, some of it may have felt uncomfortable. That's something to explore. So there's many ways to, I want to take another look at all our relations. And you can explore this in different ways in your own life. Not too long ago, Paulette and I had lots of plans for the wake up in the morning. We got a whole bunch of things to do. A whole bunch of things have to happen, right? So I go outside, I go to my van, and there's a flat tire. Totally changes the whole day. There was a nail in the tire. How'd that nail get there on the road? Somebody had to build a house somewhere. Maybe you can just see I'm creating this whole story. It could work all different kinds of ways, but let's just take it like this. Somebody had to build a house. Just think of all the people involved in building that house. I never knew any of these people, yet I'm related to them. They are who I am, and they are what I'm experiencing, my flat tire. And they call a carpenter up because they need some work done. He can't park, he has to park out on the road. And as he's doing his work, he drops a nail there. Well, first of all, in order for that house to be built, people had to build it. And they had to have parents and relatives in order to be who they are, in order to build the house. The people who lived in the house had to have parents and relatives, and they had to have certain needs. There was all kinds of circumstances leading to this nail in the road. The nail itself had to be made. A factory had to be built to make the nail. And there had to be all kinds of people involved to build that factory. That nail found its way into my tire. My whole life is related to everything else. My experience is all my relations. I am not who I am without everything that's ever happened. Everything that has ever happened is being you now. And you can't get outside it. And you are affecting everything as you are being affected by everything. But this is not I'm not talking about causation. There is something there that is direct action. Okay, now this is a good point to another paradox.
It's 10:30 now, so you might come time to
wrap it up
or go to the next session.
Okay. So we'll have to end it there, I guess.
No, it's Q&A.
No,
It's Q&A.
Yeah, after the break is Q&A.
but you can't you
Yeah, my question is, what were you gonna say?
Yeah.
Can you wrap it up quickly?
Oh, God.
Quickly?
It's not
No.
It's not
causation.
causation. It's not causation.
Where was I going?
Yeah, it's not causation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nail in your tire.
Huh?
Nail in your tire, everything's related.
No, causation, yes. This is not causation. So I'll try to make this quick, but it shouldn't be quick. But as you're being acted upon, you're acting at the same time. The past and the future are quantumly entangled or entangled in the present. They're not separate. So that think of a light bulb. When energy comes into the light bulb, and light bulbs can be all different colors, different temperature colors, and it's immediately as that light is affected by energy, it is automatically affecting its environment. There's no before and after. No before and after. As I'm speaking to you, like energy going into a light bulb, things are happening in you that is action. Like if we're in dialogue sessions, say, I'd go to a lot of Zoom groups, and I ask people to understand that when someone is talking, they're lighting packets of energy in you that is a response. It's immediately happening. There's an incredible relationship there that is a continuum, no in between. We'll leave it there.